Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Monica Harper, Executive Director of the AACFB. Thanks for joining me, Monica.
Thanks for having me.
No, and it's weird for me to say AACFB. 17 years in the industry, and it was always NELB. So I know we'll kind of get into that. And I don't want to mess up the full terminology of what AACFB stands for. So I'll leave that up to you.
Okay.
But for people who might not be familiar with yourself, Monica, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your career to date?
Yeah, so I started in association management about 25 years ago. I started working for FSA Management Group, and I've been with them most of that time. I've managed about 7 different trade associations before the AACFB, then NAELB, came on board with FSA. And so really my background is in association management.
So now, did you draw the short straw when you first showed up to your NELB meeting and you're just like, what is going on here? These people are kind of crazy. Or because even though what's sad is I never went to a NELB conference. I've always been a service provider. So traditionally, as a service provider, the broker community wasn't really, the funding sources who we traditionally go after.
Right.
But like, I know what it's like to go to a NEFA conference, and they're addicting, I guess is probably a good way of saying it. What was it like when you went to your first NELB conference?
My first one we were in St. Louis, and it was kind of a whirlwind because we had just taken over management, and I didn't know any of the people so that one was kind of a whirlwind. But once I got in, meeting with the board directors and starting to get to know some of the personalities and what drives this group of individuals, we really just clicked. And I think that's why it's been such a successful partnership all these years. I respect their entrepreneur personalities and that spirit of go-getter and that sort of thing is infectious, and you respect that about them. So it's been a great partnership.
Nope, absolutely. We're kind of a one-of-a-kind industry, just equipment finance in general. So no, it makes complete sense. So do you mind just kind of introducing the AACFB?
Yeah, so just to give a little history, so the AACFB was originally founded as the NAELB, the National Association of Equipment Leasing Brokers, back in the 1990-91. We were incorporated in 1991. And they were founded because there were the ELFAs, and they focused more on the big funding sources and the banks, and there wasn't really an association that focused on the broker and really looked out for the little guys, so to speak. And there was a lot of fraud going on in the industry, a lot of questionable ethics going on. And they really wanted to come together and form an association that was founded on ethics and having a voice for the independent broker. And so that's kind of where we started. And really we're stayed true to that foundation of trying to keep a close eye on ethics. We do a background check on all of our new members. It doesn't always prevent the bad apples from getting in, but we have a pretty well-established ethics program as well, where we have members have an opportunity, or non-members have an opportunity to file a complaint if someone is not behaving correctly, and they could be expelled from the association. So that is alive and well. Our mission is alive and well. We're here to educate, to network, to advance ethical professional industry, and share best practices and provide a collective voice.
Thank you for that. And so from a membership perspective, where do you guys stand today? I think when I was looking at the website over the weekend, you have brokers, then you have funding sources, right?
Mhm.
And then there's
Right.
another, and I think there's a third one tier as well.
Right. We have 3 categories of membership. So we have the brokers make up the largest portion, about 300 or so of broker memberships, and they're all company memberships. So these are all companies, and about 100 funding sources, and probably about 25 service providers. So those are our associate categories. Those are lawyers and insurance companies and you name it. There's kind of a plethora of different types of service providers out there.
Sure, and that's an interesting mix because I want to say in ELFA and NIFA, the service providers make up half of that.
Right.
So that could be an appealing thing for a service provider. Maybe AACFB is untapped. So just throwing it out there for the service providers watching.
Sure.
And so from a rebrand perspective, like walk through that. Like, was this kind of your idea, or what was the kind of the purpose behind it?
I remember hearing conversations with the board of directors way back probably in 2007, where we were discussing possibly adding the word finance to the name. The CLFP did that. They were the CLP. They changed it to CLFP, and there'd been a lot of talk about just adding the word finance, because what we determined is that a lot of our members, it was broader than leasing. So there were a lot of different types of financial products that were being offered with our members, and we wanted to better reflect that. But then the question was how. So it took several years of discussion. And then finally in 2018, the board decided to just do a complete name change and rebrand and be the American Association of Commercial Finance Brokers, to sort of encompass all of that different types of financing. We're still focused on the brokers as the core membership, but it's a lot of different products being offered. So we wanted to be more inclusive of what we already were.
Well, and I'll date myself a little bit, and it's like the first association in a phone directory too. It's 2 A's.
Right. Yeah, you always want to pop up first.
I don't think it works like that anymore, but whatever.
SEO, it's all about.
So was there any was there any negative side of that? Like, what was the members like? Were they receptive to it? I mean, because I was a part of an organization before I joined JDR called Lease Team, and people were under the assumption because it was Lease Team, loans were more popular, right? At the time, just based on rates and everything. So they assumed that you didn't do loans, you only did leases. And while I understand that, it's kind of like, come on, really? But I definitely get it. But was there any downside to the rebrand?
Well, we'd been around for over 20 years at that time. And so you're always going to have the people that have been around for 20 years and they don't like change. And
No.
And some of those people were on the board when we started discussing the change, the name changes. But I still have members who refuse to call it the AACFB, still call it NAELB or NELB. There are a lot of different ways people would say it. And that's fine. As they're loyal members, and we understand that it's hard to retrain your brain to say something else. But yeah, and then a little bit of the name recognition. We had to remind people that we have been around for 30 years, and we aren't a new association on the scene. We've been around for a long time, and so I guess those were probably the biggest things, is just getting people used to it and making sure that people knew that we've been around for a while. We're not new.
Well, no, and then like your background right there. I mean, you have your 30th anniversary in your upper, well, I guess my right, your left hand corner.
Right.
I always get confused, especially because I think my screen's mirrored. So it's like this side, it's like, no, it's this side.
I know.
It's confusing. But No, I mean, I think you guys have done a great job. You know, I watched the front and center interviews that Leslie Brown does. She does a great
Mhm.
job. You guys do
Yep.
a good job. What was it? Meet the funding source. Is that
Meet the funder. Yeah.
meet so you guys those are, you know, I've been doing these for almost a couple of years now, and it's not an easy thing, but once you continue to do it, your membership follows and viewership follows and everything else. So
Yeah.
kudos to you guys for doing that. So from a I just trade show perspective, like walk through kind of what you guys do. Is it similar where you have a spring and a fall conference, anything in between?
We used to have the annual conference was always in May, and then we had an East Coast meeting and a West Coast meeting. We ended up in 2018, we combined those two regional meetings into our commercial financing expo. And we changed the format a little bit, but I think that was ultimately a positive change, because we would get, you know, 100 or 200 people at one of our regional meetings, but when we combine them, the attendance has really grown exponentially since we started combining those two. And we still move it around. If we have the annual conference on the East Coast, then we try to have the expo on the West Coast. So we try to, you know, move it around either one and get different demographics. But those are the two main meetings that we have. The rest of what we offer is generally virtual. So we do a lot of online webinars. It's just hard for people to get out of the office and get
Well,
to those.
especially your traditional broker. I mean, that's their business, and they don't have a large marketing budget to spend. So not only are you taking time away from me doing a deal, it's coming out of my own pocket, not some corporate pocket.
Yeah, so we try to bring it to them, and we make our webinars free. And our Meet the Funder series is free. So we try to meet them where they are. If they can't afford to go to one of our physical meetings, then we want to make sure that they're getting education and networking throughout the year in a virtual format.
No, that's perfect. And how is the I was going to go into like the pandemic's impact on. So you've been with the association for how long now?
Since 2004. So
you went through the one recession already.
Yes. Yes.
Not to say we're in one.
Right.
Whatever. So, you know, walk me through kind of what, I guess 2 years ago, like how did that impact your world and the you know, the association?
Well, 2020 was definitely a crazy year. We were, you know, everybody at the beginning was saying, oh, this is going to blow over soon. And so we were still planning an in-person conference. And then we're like, well, maybe we need to move it to the fall. So we tried to move it to the fall. And of course, things didn't get better. So we ended up going virtual in 2020 with our annual conference. And that was the first time that we'd done a full virtual conference. So that was a bit of a learning curve, learning new technology, getting people buy-in and get them on board. And a lot of people, you know, they were just like us. They were trying to pivot, trying to make things work in a virtual way that was safe for everybody. And so we did, you know, the best we could, and we had, you know, decent attendance at our virtual events, but it's still nothing like the in-person events. In 2021, we ended up having our expo virtual, and then we had a live annual conference in the fall of that year. Fortunately, it was right before Delta hit. So our attendance wasn't quite what we were hoping, but for our first in-person back since 2020, it was by all accounts successful, and we were happy to be able to do that. And then, of course, this year we've been back in person, and we have some funders that they said, you know what, we appreciate what you're trying to do with the virtual, but let us know when you're back in person and we'll be there. They just were not interested in virtual.
No, I mean, and that's kind of one of those things where I like Zoom. Zoom is the only virtual I really need. Like the whole other stuff. I mean, every now and then a virtual happy hour I can see, but like eventually you just get like fatigued.
Yeah.
But so I remember my first conference back was a NIFA conference, and that was in Charlotte. And I had no idea what to expect, right? Did you guys have like the wristbands where it's like if you had red, yellow, or green or anything like that?
We had stickers that you could put
Okay.
either on your badge or on your that were indicating your level of whether you wanted to be approached or stay back, your social distancing preferences, basically.
And then you had the people that just had all three, and you're just like, of course.
Right.
But no, I mean that was different because I mean at the time I think in where was your conference at in the fall? Well,
In 2021,
yeah, the first one. Yeah.
the first one back was in Nashville.
Okay. So I mean that's kind of one of those ones where Nashville's a fun city to
Yeah.
be out and networking and everything. I mean, I remember we walked into the rest, there's always those bars, right? That's where all the networking pretty much happens. And
Mhm.
you're just like, hey, are people gonna be wearing face masks? And as soon as you walk in, like you wearing a mask because you're coming out of an Uber and off an airplane, and you go in
Right.
there and there's like 40 people in a room hugging, drinking, and it's
The
like,
Wild West, yeah.
okay, I guess it's back. And that was kind of like the first sense of normalcy that I probably had in 18 months was being
Yeah.
at that in-person event. So I don't know
Yeah.
if you felt similar or
Yeah, and it was difficult to navigate because you wanted to be respectful of everybody's, how they felt about being in public, and everybody was on different levels with that. I think this year's conference, and we were also in Charlotte this May. It it really felt more pre-pandemic. It was
yeah.
it was there. It was, we had some precautions in place still, but I think that's just the world we live in now. But it wasn't this overarching, oh my God, what are we going to do, kind of feeling. It was more normal.
Yeah. So you have to wash your hands more often. Okay, that's perfectly fine. Let's do
Which is
that.
probably a good thing.
It's probably a good thing. And as far as have you worked from home or do you work at an office?
FSA has an office. They had an office in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. During the pandemic, we did go remote. We all, which we are, we all do events. So we already, if I have a laptop and a phone, I can work from anywhere. And it's always been that way. I have to be able to work from anywhere. So it really wasn't a huge transition for our team. The biggest transition was just not seeing everybody every day,
Yeah.
but we did end up moving offices. We downsized a little bit. We decided that for the most part, we're going to stay remote.
Okay.
We go into the office as needed when we get ready for events or we have meetings where we're all, need to be in person for some reason. So it's nice. It's a nice hybrid because we can go to the office if we need to, but we don't have to go every single day.
And then
nice.
no, I mean that's fantastic. And like JDR, we downsized our office too because maybe there was 4 people going in the office at any given time, and it's like,
Right.
Why have like this 10,000 square foot that doesn't make any sense?
Right. Exactly.
So for the I guess for the events, I guess moving forward, one thing that I'm asked when I do these EFC events is like, well, can you offer a virtual option?
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough because you think from a cost perspective and technology and everything else, and it's like it's a tough one for me because it's like, no, I want you to be there to get things, like get the right message and out of it. And sitting here, we're all distracted. I mean, we might be paying attention on this, but our phones we're distracted. We're enough in person, let alone you can turn off your camera real quick. So, I mean, do you guys offer that as a hybrid or? any thoughts around that technology?
We did a full hybrid for our 2021 event, and I will say it was challenging. Just getting the technology to work, the audio to work. Then you have an audience that's in person there that you're trying to give them the experience that they deserve, and then you're trying to get the people that are coming in virtually. So it took a lot more staff to do that. It was more expensive because you have to have video equipment and connecting to the audio and all of that. We had, I think, probably about 30 people that came in virtually. And that was probably higher because, like I said, Delta hit right before that event. And so some people that were planning to be there in person opted to go virtual.
Yeah.
But we did not offer that this year. And we've talked about, and probably will do at some point in the future, more videotaping the sessions and offering that offline, not as a live stream, but just something that they can watch later. But like you said, it's still a cost that you're putting into it. You still have to, get video equipment or have somebody do the video. There's potentially some editing involved depending on what goes on. So it's not as just plug and play easy as some people who haven't tried to do it.
Yeah, no, it's hard.
Yeah.
That, and it's like you want and maybe it's like this with this is just the industry that I've been in, I guess, basically since out of college. So it's 17 or almost 18 years now of knowing it. But it's like the handshaking, the tightness of the group. I'm assuming it's like that in other groups, but maybe.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Or you've been doing this longer than just you've been here?
Well, and like I said, some of our members were not interested in anything virtual. That they may come to a webinar that's a 1-hour webinar or something that we put on. But when it comes to the networking aspect of it, they want to do it in person. And I get that. You want to look somebody in the eye and shake their hand and have a conversation. And I don't think that's going to change with our group.
No. And then from a membership perspective, this happened early 2020. Like, did you guys lose a lot of members in 2020 and then pick them back up in 2021?
We lost a few, but it wasn't the mass exodus that we were preparing ourselves for. Back in the recession back in 2007, 2008, and that time, we had a lot of members that came in. They were coming off of the mortgage industry was bad at the time, and so they were coming into this industry to try to make a go at it, and a lot of them didn't. And so there was a huge influx of members, and then there was a big drop off when the recession hit, because they either went back to the mortgage industry or they just like, this wasn't for me. That's not our experience this time. We've had a good, strong core of members. A lot of them, some of them have been with us the entire 30 years. And we saw the drop off that we had might have been the people that had joined in the last year. That was a tough time to get started. And then the pandemic hits.
Yeah, because it's like, when I joined JDR, they were only ELFA members. And I wanted to join NEFA just because I used to be on their board, and for a servicer, it made sense. But why would I want to join if I can't go to an in-person conference? And I know they're working on their virtual, and and you guys do a lot of good things. Just what you offer. So kudos to you for that. But that's kind of one of those things where it's like, unless you can see people in person, what's that value of joining something right off the bat?
Well, And I like to think of it, I've been a AAA member for over 20 years. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not that I get there's all these AAA benefits, and they do a good job of, like, we've got a million benefits, but really I'm just joining for if I lock my keys in the car or I break down on the side of the road. Anything else is sort of a bonus, but that's really why I renew. So I like to think about most associations, people join and there's a particular benefit, or maybe there's, a handful of benefits, but there's probably some key benefits that they join for, and they're going to write that check every year just for that benefit. So we might have members who never go to an in-person conference. They're there for maybe our CoreLogic credit pulling discount, or maybe they're there for they just want to support the association and show that they are a professional because they belong to a professional organization. Everybody has their different motivations, and so we try to have as many benefits and offerings as possible, so that whatever it is that's important to you, that's going to be enough for you to want to stay a part of it, even if you don't go to any events at all. So I think that's the key.
Well, and also, like, when you look at what your memberships are, I mean, they're extremely affordable.
Yes.
Comparatively speaking. When I was putting together a budget for my board to go to the Las Vegas event, what have we got? 6 weeks? It's crunch time, right?
Yeah.
So we got 6 weeks, and then I can finally meet you in person. That'll be my first conference. So, excited for that. And how many people you have showing up for that so far?
Well, it's been crazy. The registrations have been way higher than our 2019 was our last in-person expo. And so that's what we're gauging it against. But we've already had to increase our room block several times. I can't keep up with the room block. It keeps selling out every time I increase it. And so I was looking, and I don't know, we might get close to 300 people at this event if things keep progressing as they have been, because we get a lot of, especially our brokers, will register in the last 3 weeks. Usually our funders are, the people that are exhibiting, they already know they're going, they go ahead and register early. The brokers register in the last 3 weeks. So we don't even know at this point how many people we're going to be, but we have close to 200 people registered already. So it's been crazy, but crazy good.
That's fantastic. And plus the location always helps a little bit too. I don't think it's probably been like 5 years since I've been there. So
to Las Vegas.
Yeah. But also when I was looking at the format for your event, I mean, you did a good job too planning it out, whereas a lot of time for networking and then ample time for educational sessions as well.
We really try to pack a lot in. So the expo is shorter than our annual conference, but we try to pack as much in as we can in those 2 days and have time for the education. The education is set more to be like almost like TED Talks. So some of them are only 20 minutes, some of them are 40 minutes. The only thing we have over 40 minutes are the boot camps that we have at the end, and those are 2 hours. So we really do deep dives on the boot camps. But it's really designed to be a lot of information in shorter bursts, I guess, so that you can go do a 20-minute session, and then you can go meet with exhibitors. You can come back later and do another 20 or 40-minute session, go back to exhibitors. So that's really the format for the expo, and it's different than our annual conference, and it was designed to be different.
That's perfect. And then where's the annual next spring?
So next year we will be in Portland, Oregon, which is another area that we have not been to up in the far northeast yet. So Oregon's just beautiful, and it'll be in May. the 17th through the 19th, I believe. So it should be a really nice time of year to be up there.
Beautiful. I've been to Portland a few times, just because there's, I don't want to say a handful of equipment finance companies. Well, used to be in Portland. I don't know anymore. But that's exciting. And then where are you going to be next fall?
We haven't signed the contract on that yet, but
Okay.
I can tell you it will most likely be in Florida.
Okay. Got to make sure you keep the east-west stuff.
Yes.
People happy. And then there's people in like Texas, like, come on, help me out here.
Texas, we try to get to the middle sometimes too.
I'm just messing with you. I was on the board for well, EAEL and then NEFA for like 6 years, and it's impossible to appease everyone.
Yes, there's a lot that goes into it. You've got to have an airport that is easy to get into, and a hotel that has availability and doesn't have crazy high room rates. There's a lot that goes into it, trying to find a spot for those events.
So I ask everyone who comes on here to give a little fun fact about themselves. Besides the fact that you've survived 18 plus years with us crazy leasing people, what else would you like to share with our audience here, Monica?
Well, a fun fact that I like to tell my kids is that I was a cover model for a Humana brochure the day I was born. So,
now I'm gonna have to find. Do you have this photo, or do I need to do some Googling?
I don't know that you could Google it. I actually found it. I don't know if you can see it or not. This one's actually in the. I don't know if you can see this. This is my mother.
Oh.
And it's hard to see. That's me.
Yeah, the whole the filter.
Yeah, the whole filter doesn't work very well. But
so let me take a step back. Have you talked to your mom about, okay, why did you do this, or how did you do that? They just show up at the hospital one day and say, hey, I need to get this photo.
It's funny because the day that she was going in to have me, they were Humana had just bought out the hospital, and they were rebranding and trying to do brochures and things. All the collateral had to be redone, so they needed photographs of the different services that Humana offered. And so they approached my mother and said, can we take a picture of you when you deliver this baby? And at the time,
what's the thing? Like, what am I getting out of this? Like,
right,
no hospital bill? Like,
yeah, right. Like, no, there was no compensation that I recall her saying. But the one thing, and I'm dating myself as to how old I am. The fathers were not generally allowed in the delivery room still at that time. And my first two sisters, my father couldn't be in there for the delivery. And so when I came along, she said, if you're going to have a photographer in the delivery room, then my husband should be allowed to be in the delivery room. So that was her compensation, was that my father, I was the first child that my father got to see born, because she negotiated with them about that.
You can't put a price on that. So
now my father's not crazy about like blood and that sort of thing, so I'm not sure that was a win for him. He's probably wanted to pass out.
Well, and it's also, you better make sure you have the best doctor available for this.
Right.
If we're gonna have a camera in here too, because that was where my thought was going. It's like, what if the camera person was a guy? And then it's like, seriously, this ain't gonna work.
So you think about it. Everybody these days has pictures right after their children are born in the delivery room. Some of them film the whole thing. And that just wasn't a thing back then. So for me to have a photograph of myself and my mother immediately after my birth was kind of rare at the time.
So how'd your cover model career go after that first day?
It was a little slow after that. I did land a commercial in college though.
Okay.
The school that I went to college, they were doing a commercial to promote the university, and they were trying to get different uh, majors that were represented. And the school I went to was largely nursing and social work, and I was a communication major. So that made me rare. And so they asked me if I would be in this commercial to represent the communication department.
She's like, sure.
Like, sure. So, and my kids still haven't seen that commercial because it's on VHS. So,
yeah, that technology is a little bit hard to find. Now, I may have one that I kept. I may have hoarded it away because I don't want Brooke to know. But you never know when you're going to need a VHS player, right? Never know.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had it because somewhere there is a tape with my commercial on it, and I like kids that I was on TV.
Well, excellent, Monica. I really appreciate your time this morning. Look forward to seeing you here in about 6 weeks. For the people watching this, where can they find more information on the AACFB and upcoming events?
Right, so aacfb.org, that's our website. And pretty much any of the information that you'd like to know about the association is on the website, the upcoming events, registration. But myself and our membership director, Natasha, we are always available if anybody has any questions. We love to talk to new prospective members, and we look forward to seeing everybody at the events as well.
Well, excellent. Well, greatly appreciate your time. It's nice getting to know you more, and look forward to seeing you here in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much for your time, Monica. Thank you.